You can tell.
So if you're joining us in the conversation, we're talking about Sally Rooney's book Normal People and the show as they intersect. And we're going to go up to the second last episode that was shown on the television, which was the end of the Debs. So we've been talking about it for. So we've been talking about doing this for 3 weeks, and then Alison said that she'd listen. So this is for you, Alison.
Hello, Alison.
Entire episode. Hi. We brought the Crown of Thorns here as well.
No, I made that in college and just have a hoarding issue. And this is why it still exists 4 years later.
So we kind of boiled it down to 2 questions that we want to talk about. So the first one is, why is Connell so ashamed of being seen with Marianne? And the second one is, what does Marianne mean when she says, I would let you do anything to me that you wanted? So she says that in the scene in where what's his face takes her to the ghost house, and she doesn't say it in the book, she thinks it, but in the TV show she said. So, first question, why is Connell so ashamed of being seen with Marianne?
I don't know, Cristina. Why is he?
Okay, so the first example that we see of Connell being seen, we'll just list the examples, right? So, in the first scene with Marianne, we get it is from his perspective, right? So he is that he speaks about her like she wants to degrade him by association, and that she's considered an object of disgust in school.
And of course, the overarching thing of like when their relationship starts, he keeps it a secret. He doesn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah,
like that's all from him. That's not from her.
But she agrees to it.
Yeah. But that's his instigation, because it would be.
Well, she does say at first. She goes, "Nobody would help you now," and then he's like,
My anxiety is just counting so much.
Yeah. So like she does like definitely consent to it being a secret, which has its own issues. So his shame about Marianne. So the places where it pops up is like she's like an object of disgust when she comes over to his house in the book, not in the show, but he like checks to make sure there's nobody has seen her, or when they go to the ghost house, he checks to make sure that there's nobody there before they actually get to the place.
That filled me with so much rage
in the book.
Yeah, and also just like not just rage, but just like it kind of just triggered a little bit of like I was a bit like disgusted with him, and like it also it kind of triggers that part of you that always feels very small and very shamed, and it's like you were instantly, or I felt instantly like put into her shoes, and just like, you know, your boyfriend and the person that you're interested in is like checking to make sure it steps out of the car to check that there's no one there.
Yeah, and I think
it's
that
like it's a real shame trigger.
And I think that this is something they get wrong in the show, and I was going to bring it up at the end, but in the show they don't do that. And actually, when it comes to like, they soften him to the audience in the show completely. Like they in the book, he never speaks to her in school ever, and in the show he does, which kind of like he doesn't even look at her in the book. It says like, oh, he never looks at her. Make sure to avoid eye contact. And in the show they're like exchanging these like saucy looks or whatever. Yeah. And I think it softens the audience to him to be like, oh yeah, no, he's just like keeping it a secret. Like the level of shame of her isn't communicated as well in the show as I think is in the book.
Yeah, it's interesting is like to see like, I wonder what the time between Sally Rooney writing and releasing the book in 2018 and now when she's helping with 98% sure that she's co-writing or helping adapt the book and writing the script, that like what it'd be interesting to know what her decision is.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because I think, like, as someone who was definitely that girl in secondary school, it like definitely rang true. Like, I was considered like the like most disgusting, like no one found me attractive. I was actively kind of like sexually bullied, you'd say, is that the right word for it? Being like, oh, like even the way Marianne is called like flat chested or whatever, like I would have had that, or like that kind of stuff. That was just it was communicated very vocally that you are not attractive. And
well, it's so interesting, like, because when I started school, this is like, I mean, like, you were like infamous, is it not? But at the same time, like, people, like, I was called your name, I was called you for years. So, like, even though you were, from your perception and from how people treated you, that you were like disliked and bullied, at the same time, you were like a person to know.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
What?
Yeah.
No.
You were like, everyone knew who you were. That's true.
Wow, no,
well, that's how I felt about it. Like, everyone knew who I was because of you. Like,
that's because I used to come around and terrorize people. Like, are you?
What, like, no, yeah, no, you were like, people sort of, yeah.
That is strange. But
I entered school like very visible, at the same time being very invisible. I was like, everyone knew who I was because they knew you.
That is funny.
Not like very little to do with Martin,
Yeah. Well, like, maybe it has something to do with the fact that I got into a fight when I was in first year, because I feel like that propelled me into like school-wide fame. I like myself and Emma Fitzpatrick. I'll get you, Emma. Had a stupid fight. Like, it wasn't even a fight, but basically it was a group.
I heard that it was
fight. It was Max Metham put his arm around me. It was just like, you're all fighting Emma, yeah. I was like, no. Went down. Emma was after taking off her shoes. I was like, Jesus Christ. And then we just like went at each other like, rah! And she was like pulling the shirt off me, and everyone was like, fight, brah! And I was just like, what is going on? And then it was just like scattered because Mrs. Flaherty was going, stop her. And then I didn't get in trouble, but Emma did. Because I was good. That was a good girl. That is very funny. Yeah. That's interesting now.
But I mean, this is the thing, like, just like at the same time, Marianne, everyone in her year knows who she is. Like, I don't know about school-wide, but like, she's still very like noted within her year, even though they don't, they dismiss her or they isolate her or everything. So.
I agree, and definitely she's doing the same thing. Like, in the show, you can see it more than in the book that I did, which is just like having these snappy remarks and being obnoxious and being like, fuck you, like nothing bothers me, blah blah blah, and then it secretly does,
Yeah, so like you wouldn't, from
Rob's perspective or Eric's perspective, say in the show or even in the book, you wouldn't think that what you were saying to her bothered her.
Yeah.
Because she was just like, I know who you are, but what am I? Like, she had all these great.
It's early defense mechanism. Like so quickly. Like, she had that from the get go.
So this question is still though, why is he so ashamed of her?
Sorry about the sidetrack there. We're getting back to
it. But why is he so ashamed of her? So
okay, you go. I go.
No, you go first.
You go. Okay. Well, for me, because I know it.
In my opinion, in my personal opinion.
I just got a good white reference in my head. I won't explain it because it will take too long. For me, that's like a big thing of like crippling social anxiety and anxiety disorder, where he is And they do this in the show, which I actually liked that touch, where they actually show him having a panic attack in school. They do it in the second or third episode.
Yeah, he does have panic.
He has a panic attack where they don't actually get into that. They get into that later. It's referenced to in the book. You suspect it, but like
when he tells, I know the scene where he tells her he loves her, and then he comes into school, and then it was after the nightclub, and then he goes into he goes in the book, he goes into the toilet and throws up.
Oh yeah. So like the whole blah blah blah, stop share my thoughts. Yeah, that it's this big thing of like social anxiety. Like he really cares what other people think of him. I also think it's a big harking into like, like group mentality, but like the whole idea of like your survival is much more improved if you are, it goes back to like our words goes back. Yeah, exactly. It's like you survive better in a group with a community, with a tribe, and like so his overarching like that's really like for me I'm like that's a really overly active thing to be going off in his head at like in in Ireland and now modern day and age, but that his like rejection of her in public or rejection of her like not wanting to have the association of her is that thing from my perspective is that social anxiety that like it's just like so overwhelming that he can't even like apply his own judgment to it. Maybe as well because he doesn't have his own judgment of things yet. He's been so much part of the
And what do you think is at the root of the social anxiety?
Oh, that will go back into probably to his family. I mean, like,
because I would say that this is where you probably see. I think it doesn't make sense that he would have social anxiety. Like obviously, social anxiety is not a rational thing anyway. But he is the top of the food chain. Essentially, he's from a bad family, as Marianne says, but he's also super popular. He's like completely athletic. The girls are after him or whatever.
Anxiety is not.
I know, but this is what I'm saying. But like I would have gone into there about the historical, his family trauma. So I think that he's heightened compared to, like, specifically being associated with Marianne as like the outcast or whatever is heightened in him because other people really like whilst they're bullying him, they're not as concerned about being seen with her. Like being seen with her is because at the end Rob is kind of like, whatever. Like we knew you were riding her, like whatever. It's completely irrational in Connell. It's completely irrational. But it's not either. It's not either. But I would have said that there's two things there: the group mentality thing, which we can get into, but also I think it's a carried trauma from his mother, being a woman, and probably his experience all his life, being a girl or a woman who was made pregnant at such a young age, and then the outcast basically of the town, and what was going around, like even if he didn't consciously bring it in, that affected her. Like you can see that throughout the book that she demonstrates that she is emotionally affected by him shaming Marianne.
It really
gets her.
That reaction is so strong from the get-go.
Like she's just like, she puts herself precisely in Marianne's shoes. Not the exact situation, but she is basically the outcast. And I think that maybe he experienced a lot of attention as the son of an unmarried woman. And then his grandmother. So his grandmother hates him for being alive. He literally says in the book, and we don't get to see that in the show. They don't include that scene, which I think it would be interesting to see if they do include it. But they edit out some really important themes, I think, or like diminish them a little bit. But anyway, I think that anxiety would have carried over to him, and then being an outcast or being associated with an outcast is, as you said, when you're not part of the group, it would feel like death. So it would cause like a huge traumatic reaction in him, like triggering even in him that maybe isn't even his own. You know, so I think that maybe why is he so ashamed of being associated with himself, because he's ashamed of himself for who he is, maybe being the child of an unmarried mother, not because he feels it, but because it was,
it's put on him.
It's put on him.
Yeah.
So I think that potentially is the reason. And then the group mentality thing. So as you were saying, like we're talking about this, how like the perspective changes, or the group mentality changes you can change your own perspective in ways that you probably wouldn't even think. So like he literally says about her that, oh, she's not even that good looking, why is he even getting with her, and she's considered one of the ugliest girls in school, and why is he doing this with her then? So like it just shows you the power of it. It's crazy, the power of it. It's like that's why he's ashamed of it, ashamed of himself.
Yeah, and like, I mean, we're speaking in 2020, and both of us have been doing our own different work on ourselves, but like, so it may not seem, for me, it doesn't seem as obvious as to why you'd be so affected by a group, or like your group of friends or anything like that. It's like, because we're much more practiced in like independent thinking and having your own will, whereas like Connell is, he's from small town in Sligo. Like, I mean, we're like West Cork. It's, we don't even, we can see it, but we mightn't even realize the extent of how much more like liberal or like, open-minded it is here compared to like a smaller town that's way more rural. Even like those things would be way more powerful.
Well, also we weren't really part of were you a loner? I was a loner. Well, I had friends, but like, I was excluded from the group.
You had a big thing, didn't you? Halfway through.
What thing?
Did you get like excommunication at one stage
from the group?
Yeah.
Oh, there was this thing in third year. It was horrible.
Yeah,
so it was just like, it was like, basically there was like two big groups in our year, and then they merged into one big super evil group, which, there was good people in the groups, but it was just like, now at least I could have hung around with this group before, but now I can't, because they're with like the absolute assholes that were bullying me. And like, you go to, like, we were into the playground, I remember one time after exams, and then the lads were just making fun of me, and like everyone, it's funny, it's like everyone just kind of stays silent, and like doesn't say anything, and that makes you feel like worse or whatever. But yeah, it was hard. Like, I had to come home straight after every exam in third year because I couldn't hang around with anyone. Like, even after our fourth year, sad for Cristina. So even after our fourth year, like, fashion show, everyone was going to the playground drinking or whatever, and I was like, well, I guess, I pretty much like, I was part of the art committee, and I was a major organizer, but like, I was just like, okay, well, if we've been there, I guess.
Yeah. No, there was like I was definitely, I don't know, I think I did have friends in fairness.
Well, there was
just generally like the big popular group, and then there was like the Weirdos in the Corner.
Yeah.
And I was in there.
We had like a lot of different groups, and then
like the comment hall kind of broke up into like 5 kind of groups, but like generally the big group was like a mix of 3 different groups that were all very popular. Generally think, and then it was just the Weirdos in the Corner.
Yeah, our year just took drugs. and drinking. There was no jocks really in our year except for Kevin O'Leary and William.
Yeah, no, there was a few in our year, but like they were sound enough. Like it was just like, you know, lad humor that was just stupid. Like when lads get together and they lose their brains.
See, I was dragged around the fourth year hall with my skirt over my head.
I remember that.
So like it was not good.
But they all thought that was funny.
My therapist told me it was sexual abuse. She was like, "That's sexual abuse." I was like, "Oh." She's like, "Did you enjoy it?" I was like, "Not particularly." She's like, "Well, then not good." I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
This is the big trappings.
Did you enjoy it? Did you consent to it or whatever?
Yeah, the one big trappings of like Irish society is like church is only a joke and we're only joking, and it's just like that's probably not okay.
Yeah.
And like maybe just think about what you're doing before you do it, you know.
And I think that actually gives us an excellent segue into the next question, because we can talk about trauma and the root of trauma and how like so the next question is, are we done with Connell and his shame? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think her distress. So what does she mean? What does Marianne mean when she was like, so in the show she's at the ghost place and she's just like,
By the way, we've both read the book and watched the show, but when we're talking about these things, we forget the details.
I wrote them down.
She wrote them
in
down.
the book.
So like, it's just a matter of like nerves in front of camera while we're forgetting the keys.
You kind of. So this is like a really advanced, what's it called? Analysis of normal people, of both the book and the thing. So we are comparing the two. We are comparing them to each other and also, separately. But anyway, so why does she say, or what does she mean when she says, "I would let you do anything"? So on the show, she says it. In the book, she thinks it. She said she says, "Oh, she thinks I would have lain down and let him walk all over me if he wanted." So if you literally take that, like in the show, she said, "I'll let you do anything." Anything, really? Anything? 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 Question mark? Anything? Yeah. So like, and then in the book when she says, "I would have lain down and let me walk all over," like that just tells you her mentality. Like she will literally allow anyone or him to walk all over her.
So like straight away I read that and I was like, codependency flags, like, there's so many things.
Here, have a little
flag.
Codependency flag.
Like, it's like maybe stuff like growing up. I mean, I think a lot of us would have grown up with grown up or gone through school to college. Like you mightn't even be codependent growing up, but like a relationship might make you that.
What is codependency, Eilís?
Codependency. Oh Lord, a total lack of boundaries. Generally, you're constantly self-sacrificing. People pleasing. Yeah, you're always putting other people's needs in front of yourself, and it's a survival thing as well.
And how would you why would someone become codependent?
I mean, it's most commonly linked to codependent relationships are most common and the most best example is with alcoholics and their partners. That's where you'll see the most research about it.
But it's a root, I mean.
Yeah, so like it does it, but
give me the answer I want.
I'm joking. I have to do it. Quicker. Fine. Say it then.
Bitch. I don't know. I'm waiting for you to say it. I'm joking.
I'm not good at actual joking.
I'm joking. I was joking. I don't understand
them. It takes me 3 minutes to process them. Okay. I can try. But that's where you most commonly see that behavior, but it's not at all just linked to alcoholism and alcohol and their partners. It's basically it's the relationship, it's the bond. It can be, I think it's a lot, blah 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 blah, right? People who are similar, like if they're both traumatized, if they've gone through trauma in their life, in like, or it's just the way you were raised. I mean, like the society that we're raised in, and especially the way women are praised for being a certain way is actually like you're praised and lauded as a woman for being really codependent.
Like a servant.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Irish mammies would be hyper codependent.
Yeah, and
it's like just like here's all of your food for 50 years of your life, and I've like even going to college, like cooking, like mothers cooking everyone their lunches or dinners, and like it sounds so small and it's lovely, but actually it doesn't allow that what's it called, individualization. It's just like I'm always dependent on you, and it's serving someone in order that they like you, so that you're receiving validation from them
and love, and it's a whole thing about like you're still maintaining connection with the person. Okay, we'll say like this is all just research that I've done myself. I am not a trained psychologist, so I might put in this really bad in that. I mean, I'll give you good advice, but I'm not qualified. But as well, like I mean, Florence Given recently, if you don't know her, she's amazing. Influencer on Instagram, but
her boob was on her story this morning.
Yeah, her boob, she's great. But she does all this amazing work, and she's recently talking about like how codependency is like embedded into our society. It's like the songs that we hear, the movies we watch, like the books we read, like the way of like a woman will give up everything to be with a man and do anything for the man. It's like just to be with him, like that. It all ties in, like, so we don't even recognize it as clearly in our society because it's just so enmeshed. It's pretty mad. There's a great book, Codependent No More by Melanie Beatty.
Mm-hmm.
That if you want to look up Melanie Beatty, I have it right there. If you want to learn more about codependency.
Or just collation book appointment.
Yeah.
She'll psychologize you.
I'll give you all the references. Well, not all of them, but as many as possible. Anyway,
so they do have. So we were talking about then the trauma that she has experienced in her life. Because in order for you to say something like that, what is she essentially saying? You can walk all over me if you want. She's communicating in some way that she is not worth anything, like she is basically like dirt. You can walk all over her. So like that's the underlying message.
Yeah, like which is in the book. They don't go into this really as much in the show. They don't not have as much. Like in the book, her brother is constantly telling her how horrible she is and what a waste of space she is. Like, so like even though she's like consciously, she's not. You never see those thoughts come across her head, or they're not taught in the book. Like that still goes in, and that still affects you. Like so, that's what she's being told of herself, and that's actually set in. And it's something like
I think that because we were talking about this earlier, how they have kind of glossed over the Alan thing so far, and I think in the next episode they're going to get a little bit more into it. But I think it'll be a missed opportunity if they don't explore the emotional abuse that he puts her through before it gets physical later on. So I would like to come back to like the bullying thing as well here, because when it comes to trauma and people being traumatized, I believe that the bully and the bullied are essentially the two prongs of the same root, basically, or two shoots of the same leaf, or
the
two forks of the road,
two sides of the same coin.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so you have the trauma, and then you have you have two traumatized people, trauma people, right? But then you have distinct coping mechanisms with that. So you can turn into like a codependent. You can turn into.
So you're talking about the drama triangle. Is that what you're referring to? Drama triangle. Yeah. No. Do you not know about this?
No.
Oh, okay. Drama triangle is this. So with roles within abuse, or just dysfunction, you have three major roles that will occur that you will you're not actually you mightn't you mightn't stay in that one role, so you can swap between them. But generally, so there's the persecutor, there's the rescuer, and there is the victim, isn't it? Yeah. And typically a victim, victim and persecutor can interchange a lot. Yeah. Typically, you will see like the victim and rescuer interchange a lot. You see this in this is actually a big thing that happens in codependent relationships. And you'll persecutor and rescuer, I think you can all interchange. You're never really stuck in the one role, but that's the dynamic you're actually stuck in until you change it.
So I think that's probably what I'm getting at. I hadn't read that actually. So like my idea had been like you have two people who've been traumatized. In this instance, you have two people who've been traumatized by the same source. So sometimes you'd have, so say for instance, in my tragic teenagehood, I had a bully and I was a bully. Like say I had some kind of trauma and he had a different trauma. They were separate. But in this instance, they had the same source. They could be different traumas though. But we know that they were in an abusive household. Her father beat her mother and also beat her. And you'd have to wonder, did he beat also Alan? The
most likely.
Boy? Most likely. Yeah. And then also on top of that, which is the emotional, mental abuse or whatever. Whatever, you know, just like a bit of emotional abuse. Yeah. But
God, that sounded really bad. I hope there's no one like watching who's like, excuse me?
No, but that's why I made fun of it in my accent. So
we're just mocking yourselves and not the actual situation.
Yeah. So you have Alan so what I would consider Alan then becomes the persecutor himself. So he perpetuates.
They were like, I think what they came out of their original abuse is like, this is how they survived. Like he survived by becoming this person, and she survived by becoming invisible and not letting anything affect her. That was her way of dealing with it.
Yeah. But 100%. But I'm saying that like I think some people, or I think we all, sorry, not some people. I hate when I say that. I'm like, some people don't understand. But I understand, and So I'm saying that we think that the people who are abusive are just abusive because they're abusive or they're bad people, but actually it's because most likely it's because they've experienced extreme abuse or extreme trauma early in their lives, especially, and then they deal with it in whatever way, and then if the situation arises, can become a perpetrator of abuse themselves. So you have in the same household a perpetrator and a victim who are actually both victims of abuse in the first instance. And actually you have Denise as well. And she's kind of an abuser in her own way.
Yeah, and she's weird. She's weird, yeah. She's like, in the book, her and Alan are very like dismissive, and they put Marianne down, and like that's not a relationship you want to be in with, or that's not the position you want to be in, is to be in Marianne's position with the way that they treat her. In the TV show, she's softened, and her and Marianne have that moment in the kitchen where they're talking about the Dublin house, and then Alan storms out. Like, obviously Alan can't stand to see them
having a moment.
Yeah, so he's like, that infuriates him, and he leaves, and by doing that he also just breaks that moment of them having like a connection with each other.
Yeah, their closeness triggers something in him. And I suppose though, like Denise
can't control as much when they're he can't control. Like that's
Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think Denise is also rehashing her relationship she had with her husband with her son. So she is like the abused, codependent wife, and now she's the abused, codependent mother. But it doesn't seem like he abuses her. What he does is he keeps it secret. So in the show, it looks like it's more obvious what he's doing. But in the book, it's very much a secret. He tells Marianne all the time, like, don't tell anyone about this.
But isn't he like a totally different person around other people in the book? He's like he's a people pleaser himself, and is very accommodating, and is like is very concerned with his image, and that does translate. They do bring that over to the show, and then like as soon as he's able to be alone with Marianne, he's really like verbally abusive and calling her names, and is like always aggressively in her personal space. So like there is.
So then I'm going to like bring in a theory here now after you said that, because you're attracted to, if you've been abused, you are attracted to the abuser dynamic again and again.
Yeah, that's just what you it's what you recognize. Yeah, like not consciously, obviously. It's not like you're not doing it on purpose. It's just something like it's we seek what is familiar. That's just human behavior. So like without realizing, you'll seek out people who are, if you're codependent, you'll kind of seek out a person who's also codependent, or it like matches up to what has been mapped out in your early life, basically.
So I'm going to propose, if Marianne's attraction is of the same kind of dynamic as her and her father, and Alan is then also he is that kind of energetic match as well. What does that say about Connell?
That's actually very interesting.
So like Connell, so Alan keeps it a secret, doesn't want his mother to know, right in the book. He's like, don't tell anyone about this, don't tell anyone, what we do here is private.
Yeah.
And then comes along and he's just like, what we're doing here is private, like don't tell anyone. And his way of abusing her,
whose way of abusing her now?
Connell, like, do you call it abuse? I don't know. He's not neither in the book or in the show is it like
I wouldn't call it abuse. I think it's more like, I know the word that I'm trying to think of. It's
adolescent.
No, it's
immaturity.
That too, but like it's oh my god, the word kill me. It's continue and I'll think of the thing.
So my theory is that in like it is kind of, this is the issue I have with normal people in a general sense, is that it doesn't follow the psychological, don't want to say rules, but what you would say would happen, like, oh, she ends up with this really great guy, well, know, like but okay, so like just his treatment of her is similar to the way Alan treats her in a way.
And just the simple thing, the thing that I would say with Big Matt is that he keeps their relationship secret, and he is ashamed of her, and she is something to be ashamed of. That would be a map across the board, I would think, and that would be what would map from her relationship to her father and to her brother. That would be the same bridge that would be her relationship with Connell.
That she is like does he has conflicting emotions about her, you see, so it's not like from a theoretical perspective we could say that that is true, but then we can say that like he is disgusted by her and he keeps her a secret. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But he also really likes her, and he also like wants her respect. That's the is that the codependency in him? Like, what I'd like to kind of divorce here, which I don't think is done in the show or the book, I don't know, is it? And it would be interesting to see what other people think about it as well. But where does their trauma bonding end and their real attraction start. You know, like when we see this, I think myself and yourself, and we look at this relationship, we can see that these people are two very, you know, traumatized people, and they're bonding in this way.
But the thing is like we're seeing that now, and we're seeing that at our age and with all of our experience.
Yeah,
and
I'm saying that this is as your one was saying, boo woman, that
Torrance given.
yes, and that this is the narrative that is rolled out all the time, that this type of relationship, this like secrecy and, you know, like, oh, it's super exciting and kind of like addictive and blah blah blah, this is love.
Yeah.
So I don't think in the book they make a distinction between or does she know? I don't know, like I can't say what Sally Rooney does or does not know about any of this stuff, but it's like in some ways the book and the narrative of the show perpetuates this idea that this kind of relationship is love.
Yeah.
Is it love?
Like, well, okay, this is the point I'm going to bring up with about this before we started this, is like, I don't necessarily think that she's actually perpetuating that idea again. It's more like she's literally, with what she's done with the book and the relationship, is like she's just shown off, like illustrated a brilliant mirror of what Irish society is actually like, and like growing up and like getting into a relationship, and like Irish people are so bad at dating, and they're so bad at like, we're just like, we all know this, we're so bad at it. Green drinking. I do
drinking the right.
Just drink it. Yeah. Like, so it's actually,
how'd you get the right?
I don't like, for me, I don't really think she's actually perpetuating that again, even though
I think by just writing the book you are perpetuating.
No, because like you need to, like, that book has caused like this to happen.
True, I understand.
You know what I mean?
But I'm like, I would like to put that aside though, when people was like, oh well, we're having a conversation, that's the point of the book. Yeah, look, I'm not talking about all the success of the book. I want to talk about the way it fails. Okay.
Why?
No. But I'm just saying that, like, but I do want to talk about that as well. Like, as in, I think I would have just personally liked to have seen I know, but that's our idealism. Yeah. Okay, fair.
That's not actually the reality situation. You know, like,
I know, but I just feel like
how can you have
O'Neill wrote that book about like what's the name again?
Asking for it.
It was just like, it was a mirror.
Yeah.
But it was also saying something really like, it was saying something really profound, like that this is, you know, it was, the message was clear. I don't, like, in no way in this book does it even hint that this love is
only if you are able to recognize that it isn't.
And I think, and that's not the fault of the book, right? Okay, I'll take my idealism out of it, right? That's not the fault of the book, the fault of the show. I think that is just
our society.
I think that should be a conversation that we are having, and that, I suppose, is why we wanted to do this in the first place. We wanted to be able to see, like, this is not actually love. In my opinion, it's not actually love. It is the same sad old story that is shown on, not sad old story, I think it's a great story, but I'm saying that the relationship is the same formula that we see all the time on like films and TV and love stories and all this, where it's actually a trauma bond that people are having, and it's a codependence, an unhealthy dynamic that is romanticized, and then everyone is going out there looking for this kind of like.
So that's the thing, like, she doesn't romanticize the relationship. I think it's the praise around it and the way people have been talking about it that have romanticized it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think. It's like, and that can be just as affecting as the book itself in deciding what it actually is.
Oh no, I don't think that the book stands alone there. Like, the book is not doing that. What do I mean? I'm saying that like we're so blind to it that like nobody sees it or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's like that's the funny thing about when you write a book or you make a song or whatever. It's like, to be honest, and like the audience decides, and this is very much acknowledged in performance art, and that the audience is just as much of a creator of the art as the creator itself. So like the audience of this book are as much a deciding factor of the creation of what it is.
Yeah, but I just think that these type of as in love stories in general, have actually fed people their perspective. Like when we're talking about perspective, we has fed us a perspective of what love is for a really long time, and I think people are modelers.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, we'll bring it back to the book where Connell is modeling how he should react to or how he should be attracted to Marianne off of other people's treatment of her. So people model. So like I see something in a book or read something in a book or I see something in a TV show, I see something in the film, and I think it should be how it is in real life. And actually something you said in the beginning, which I made a note of because I wanted to get back to it, was how we treat men from seeing them in movies. And I think it's really, 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 really shit. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Because, and it's something that, like, I guess as a young teenager and even as a young woman, and even as a woman in general, you're like, you are constantly let down by men because you're told through movies and through all these stuff that, like, popular culture, this is how, if you do this, this is how men will talk, this is what they should do, this is how they will treat you, blah, blah, blah. And then you, like, do the thing, and then they don't do that at all. Especially if they're out, you know, like, they're not going to come running after you and be like, please be my girlfriend, like, whatever. They're just going to fuck off. And then you're like, oh, no. And it's just like, wait, it said in 10 Things I Hate About You that they did this and did this. So, like, it is completely skewed our way of being able to, like, talk to each other.
This is a big thing that I was like when I started college, or even like started college. I like consciously had to like deprogram everything I had learned through romantic comedies about like what relationships are and what love was, and it's like the reality is so different.
So different.
Like, asking someone out on a date,
and it's actually, I love this word, it's abusive. Because what you're doing is you are expecting someone to behave in a particular way, and then when they don't do that, you get upset. But why have you put expectations of what they will say or how they will react to blah blah? There is expectations how they should treat you, as in like respect and all that, but like
in terms of like, oh, this guy's my boyfriend, and they're gonna do this, and they're gonna do this.
They're gonna bring me flowers.
Yeah, they're gonna bring flowers, and they're not gonna forget this. And then like they're gonna be like showing off, and you know, like there's all those small shit, you know, grand romantic things that we're like, this is the love of my life, and they don't do that because they haven't been programmed by romantic comedies, because they're watching like, you know, Michael Bay films, which is fair enough, they're good crack. But so like then they're looking at us being mad at them.
And they're like, what? Yeah. But you didn't say the thing. And I think this comes back to there is a bit of a debate that you brought up before as well. Like, actually the problem that I think Irish people have, that's our number one problem in relationships, is communication. And it is actually the most just baddest problem across all things.
Shocking.
Everywhere.
So bad.
Like, in the entire world. Politics, business, personal relationships, your relationship with your mother, that's also a personal relationship. like your relationship you have with like just someone in a shop, communication as everything.
Yeah.
I actually saw a really good meme on the internet, on Instagram.
On the internet?
On the internet. Mom posts my memes every morning and then I laugh at them. It was like women. Communication is key. Then men, and it's like, is everything okay? So like women, yeah, it's fine. Good night. And it's just your man going. And it's so true. We do. I think we. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna say we. Like definitely talk the talk, but maybe not walk the walk very often. But being able to communicate your emotions and how you feel and the rest of it is like it is not done in this country.
Yeah, which is what's really interesting about the book. I think because for me when I read it, I was like, and we had this big discussion straight away after she finished the book. It was like, she's like, they don't communicate, and I thought they did, because Marianne really presses Connell for he'll say something. She's like, do you really mean that? Is that what you actually think? And so it's really strange because they, in one way, they communicate a lot, and then not at all.
So I think we have to make this distinction between, because we'll bring this up after, but actually I'll bring it up now. In this book, in the show, you're just like, why is he attracted to her? Because they go from she's licking some yogurt and he's like, oh, maybe she's alright, to riding in 2 minutes. But in the book, it actually it
goes into the nuances of it.
He comes over a lot more. He comes over a lot, and then
there's an established personal relationship there.
Yeah, it's just like oh, I like you out of nowhere, and then she does that in the book as well, but I like you, and then it's just like, oh, here's a book, and then it's just like, wow. Whereas in the book, if they're actually he comes over a few times and they're chatting, and you get that there has been an established relationship there.
He's very, he's a nice person. He's known as a nice person, and so he talks to her when he goes over, and he doesn't make fun of her.
So this is the distinction I would like to make. There's talking about things. They do a lot of that. They talk about politics. They talk about books. They talk about all this thing. But when it comes to their own communication about how they actually feel about each other, they're only ever asking each other, do you like me? Are you sure you like me? She's like, I like you. Oh yeah, I like you too. When it actually comes to,
yes, I think I was saying when we had this conversation, it was I thought they communicated up until the point that they really needed to communicate, and
which
then for some reason they didn't.
No, means they weren't doing it all along. Yeah. Because even when he asked, so we'll just go up to the Debs point, right?
They were talking.
Yeah. So they've told each other they like each other, they want to write each other. Grand, that's not hard. But we're talking about we're talking about he's thinking all the stuff and he's ashamed of her. He doesn't tell her. They don't talk about that issue. Yeah. They don't talk about why he won't he doesn't bring her to Debs, and then he comes over and he says it it's nothing, and then she doesn't communicate back that she's really angry. She just stonewalls. Yeah. So their ability to actually be genuine, open up to each other when the shit hits the fan.
I also made this point as well that is not all communication is just verbal communication. There is that in itself is a communication, even. So it means
Eilís, no, it's not.
It is, because she's she cuts him off. That's saying something.
It is open to interpretation. That is not communication. Communication is clear.
But that's okay. I will I'm not undervaluing or understanding the fact that you need to verbally communicate things, but it does say that, especially her cutting him off when he tells her.
It is a way of communicating, but it is not a healthy way of communicating. So when we're talking about communication, Eilís, we're talking about healthy communication. Okay, so yes, I agree, and I have actually literally only when I was in Cambodia I had a situation where I was very upset over something, and I felt like I couldn't talk to my friend about it, and every time I thought about talking to her about it, I would get really like angry and upset. And so what I decided to do was just avoid the situation that we had together, that and just not talk about it. And then he was just like, "Hey, come to the thing," and I was just like, "No, I'm just doing the thing, another thing." He was just like, "Oh, hey, want to do this thing?" And I was just like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore." And he was like, "Why? Like, why?" And then we had this whole like bargee over it, and he was just like, "Cristina, you really should have just come to me." But I tried to explain to him at the time that I was doing that, where I just withdrew, I felt I couldn't talk to him. Like I physically couldn't say it. I felt like it would have been kind of the end of the world. I would have been far too upset, and I was kind of ashamed of myself. I don't know what was going on, but when he said to me, "You should have come and talked to me," at that point, then I was ready to. I would have reacted differently. But yeah, like it is a way of communication, but it's a really, really, really shit way of communicating. And like it's imagine if he hadn't, if it had, it's the same thing as doing like, oh, I don't like her anymore, so I'm just gonna stop texting her.
And you're gonna get a lot of people being like, "That's very valid."
Do you know? Do you know? Like I know she was super, super upset with him, but what would have been good for her if she could have gone. And this is not a critique of her because obviously, like she's extremely traumatized and blah blah. But I'm saying like the ideal situation would have been like, "Hey, so what you did was really shit and made me feel humiliated."
That's the thing. I think our idealism of like what a good relationship would be, and like what it's really
I think my
shaping.
therapist would just agree.
I know, but like, do you know what I mean? It's like, but like us at that age.
No,
you know,
I'm not. I'm not.
I just think it informs how we're thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, I'm saying that. I'm not saying that. I actually do think teenagers could do like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just think that we have not been given the tools to do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this is what it would look like if they had been in a healthy communication thing. You had the false idea. You had the idea that they were communicating well, but like it definitely. I think it took me a really long time to actually explain myself when I was trying, because you were like, "No, they do communicate." I was like, "No, and it took me a really long time to be like, "No, wait, no, they definitely didn't." But in some ways they do as well because she can read him or whatever, which I have a problem with too.
But like the thing is, like, it's all a matter of like you as you're growing up, like we're looking at them from the ages of like 17, 18 to 24, 25.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's like that's all what you learn during that time. I think it's like you're like it's few and far between people that will know how to do that when they're 18, like, or in their very early relationships. Like
you keep bringing this up actually, and I don't understand why you're making the distinction with their ages and why you think that's an important thing to do.
Because you don't have the experience of like knowing that like how like what parts of communication are the more important parts. Like you, like one person, I might think it's not necessary to communicate this, but like it's only through my experience of my relationship with other people that I realize that it's important for me to communicate about.
Right, I get,
You know what I mean?
I get that, but I suppose when you were saying they do have good communication, it's irrespective of their age that they should have good, like, what am I trying to say? Like, I'm saying, like, no, they don't have good communication, like, but they're only that young. That's irrelevant to me. Like, they didn't have bad communication. That's fine. I'm not saying they should or whatever. I'm just making the evaluation that they don't.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it's for me, I was like, I read it in one go.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just need to reread it again much more slower, because like I was like, this is very strange, like how they would like they would talk so much, and like their communication, like them literally talking to each other and their connection, like through email when like. Sorry. Where am I? Yeah. Oh, lads, apologies. See, we started going at a tangent. I didn't even know.
Okay, so we'll finish up now in the next couple of minutes. So they're just after finishing the Debs, okay? Okay. Just the Debs. I don't think you did. I don't think you ruined anything. It's fine. They were just sending emails, okay? Nothing else. It was just emails. So how has the abuse affected Marianne? Boundaries? So trauma and boundaries. So yeah. So we're talking about how blah blah blah, abuse, perpetrator, victim.
It's taking the time because this is like an hour and a half long.
Everyone's gonna watch. Okay. People watch 3 hours Joe Rogan, and he is Alan and abuse. So just finish up in a second. How does abuse affect Marianne? I personally think that it hollows her out. And boundaries. I made the observation that he crosses boundaries all the time, like the physical boundary of the house, of her room, her body, and then he notes that like she kind of just lets things happen to her, like she is kind of boundaryless in a way, Marianne. Whereas he's very, very strict with his boundaries. He invites her over. He doesn't let, like, the privacy thing is a huge boundary. You know, people's eyes, how people see him, like they literally, like Lorraine, what she's allowed to know. That's a big boundary. Whereas with Marianne, it's she finds it more difficult, or even
like he's kind of like not like those are very like he's very controlling of how things will be perceived of him, and how he's very controlling of those elements if he can be. Whereas like and that's his mechanism, whereas her mechanism is like just
yeah. And that happens when people have been their boundaries, like your physical boundary has been crossed by someone punching you in the face. That's a pretty big boundary cross. Yeah. And then the emotional boundaries have been crossed again and again by like Alan and stuff like that. So you had things the show got wrong, breaking the school home boundary, and Alan, and then is Marianne more timid in the show? I think she's a bit more timid in the show. She's far more like staff, like she's more confident, I feel. From Connell's perspective, she's more confident. Maybe not herself, but like from Connell's perspective, she's like she plays with him.
But I don't know, I see no difference in like her confidence in herself between her and the book and the show.
In the beginning, like I think when you read the whole thing, you have different perspectives of Marianne.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when I was reading it, I remember being like, "Oh, your one knows what she's doing." Like she's like licking the spoon, like in the beginning, and then she kind of laughs at him for doing things. Whereas in the show, she's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like she does say that in the book, but like in the house, she's just like, "Oh, why are you going to give me some grinds?" Not like you're going to give me some grinds, and then she's like, "Oh, I didn't realize what I was saying." Is more the show.
I don't know. I think she knows. Like, well, that's again different interpretation of her. You know,
or he seems to think that she is winding him up anyway.
He laughs at it because he knows the innuendo, or like he knows.
Well, he's perceiving it as an innuendo anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what you perceive it as in the book because it's from his perspective.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I think that's all for today now, is it?
Yeah. Sorry for all the mistakes. I mean, no, not really. Enjoy, don't.
I hope you enjoyed our review of the first couple of episodes, only the first few episodes. Normal people starting reading. And actually, my friend Kira did bring up, so I was recommended this book maybe a year and a half ago, and I think I hated love at that time, so I didn't read it. But my friend Kira said, you know, the sardine can put her off, and I also agree that I don't like it.
See that? I'm like, yeah, that's great. That really? For me, that I would be
what
like.
What does it mean?
Like
2 peas in a pot, 2 sardines in a can.
Love in a can. I mean, like
inside in a sardine can? Like, why?
It's just it's alluding for me. It's like because it's such an unconventional image as well. I mean, I would be like, that's very interesting because it's not. I mean, they could have just done they could have just had those bodies kissing like that, and then be like, oh no,
They're not even kissing. Actually, they're like turned in away from the thing, and then like this is meant to close down.
Yeah,
like they're in a coffin. Like, is it like a coffin sardine can?
That wouldn't bother me at all. That would make me interested because it's a subversion of that original thing. That's what I take away from it.
Oh, I did want to just touch back, sorry, on before we go, because I do have a headache from talking.
Really?
Yeah, I get my ears are hot.
Just like a go fairy.
How we expect men to behave, I think that is because he does say the thing like, and when I read it, I actually like went ooh like this, that he had his whole like how he was in bed and his attempts at tenderness, like regurgitated, and I was like, oh, we women definitely, not even just
well, men and women do that. But like, cause I'm very.
Do men do that?
Oh yeah, I like.
Do they?
Yeah,
oh, that's horrible.
I
don't think I had the experience that men were necessarily like telling
really,
their friends what they said.
I know like so many intricate details about like women I know who've slept with men I know, and the men just being like talking about it's horrible to hear back. Like I just
in detail.
Oh. Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
But in the book they were like laughing about it. It's just like, that's horrible. I think there's much more. Maybe it's not much more, but I feel like in society we do say, like, oh, I just have a bad penance and that's it, got a bad and bad. It's just a whole thing that happens. That is very much like a.
Well, it's very much noted like women. Yeah, women tell each other everything.
That's hard, but
hard.
That's hard. Like,
yeah, whereas men,
I don't think men do. Like, not like grown men.
I know there was grown men.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I've been staying away from men.
Yeah, me too. So should this be renamed? We hate men.
No, we don't.
Don't call me car.
No, if you do want an appointment, remember? No, don't call me either. No, you're gonna give my mom corona. She'll kill me. Okay, so this was, what are we gonna call it? I was thinking the conversation. The national conversation. They'll have some Thursday.
The national. Oh my god, that'd be funny. I have the clue. It's words in a room. Let's make it sound even more pretentious.
Oh no, they're gonna think that your couch isn't personal, right?
You're the one that's been moving. Okay.
Goodbye. Okay, good. Bye!